Welcome to the DingeCast. We are driven by a passion for discovery and the belief that history should be uncovered. Our mission is to reveal the hidden realities of the past to bring history into the light. Welcome to the DingeCast.
Welcome everybody. It is another edition of the DingeCast. Tonight, and wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever you are, prepare yourself for a staggering expose of something that you totally and completely take for granted. Oh yes, it is that little thing called time. What we're going to talk about, well, we're going to go in a lot of different directions tonight with Ryan, Mr. Behind the Scenes, and Brian, Mr. Above the Scenes. We are going to talk because it is one of the most important topics that science and physicists are still grappling with. They still don't know specifically what time is, just like they still don't quite know what gravity is. And maybe the two are part of the same thing. I myself, I have been asking the question most of my life, what really is time? And are we subject to it in an inescapable way? I say we are not. I say we are not subject to time in the sense that we are bound by the laws of physics, and science agrees with me. But I have written an entire book called Flowing Through Time, which we will discuss at some point here. There it is, and it is an important piece of work for me because it goes into some of the subatomic and the properties of time and the mechanics of time, but also the escape clause. Yeah, there is an escape clause, and it comes through being in the moment, living in the moment. Because everything about time coalesces in the now moment, past, present, future. Have you ever wondered about it? I bet you have. Tonight, we are going to go deep. And if we can, Mr. Behind the Scenes, I would love to play that black and white clip from, it sounds like a South African gentleman. We looked, try to find out who this man is. There is no information that we have been able to find on who he is. Probably one of the most profound things I've ever heard in my life, and you are going to hear it now.
There is no time.
Okay.
Period. Have you ever been to the past?
It's all
or the future?
Thought. Past is thought.
No. You think of the past, but you think of the past now. Have you ever actually been to the place called the past that you think about?
No.
It's not possible. Nobody's ever been there. It's a belief. It's just a belief that we all take for granted. Is it your experience that the now is moving along a line of time from the past to the future? Is the now moving? And how long does the now last?
I don't think I've ever measured it.
It doesn't. It doesn't last. The now doesn't last in time. There is no time for the now to last in. Now is not a moment sandwiched between these two vast spaces. There is no vast space either side of the now. The now is not a moment. These are New Age ideas. They have nothing to do with truth or reality. The now is not a moment. Now is eternity. The ever-present, not the everlasting. But when that now is filtered through the limitations of the mind, it appears as time.
Okay.
The mind is like a prism which refracts the now, which has no dimensions, into a single dimension of time.
So profound.
Okay.
So utterly and completely profound. So accurately profound. There is no space between now, tomorrow, and yesterday. It is only now. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Mr. Behind the Scenes, and Brian. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. To me, I have always believed that I could come to this place in my life where somebody would articulate what I've written books about, and he did it in about a minute and a half. What do you think about this, guys?
For me, like I've always thought about that. The one there's a theory that kind of goes a step past that like the past never happened, or that everything's happening at the exact same time, which is part of that, right? That the something that 5,000 years ago, something 5,000 years from now are technically all happening at the same time. It's just us passing through that space, and that's still really hard for me to wrap my head around. As are a lot of these concepts, because you're just so used to the structure that we live in, right? 52 weeks a year, 7 days a week, 24 hours in a day, and you're just counting the minutes and seconds. You have things to do. It's hard to even break those walls down and think openly like that. That's
Well, time is different for everybody, believe it or not. And this is why it's hard to measure time in a real sense because, first of all, time is not merely a constant, it's an experience. So, for example, if you're having a good time, your day can go by and it feels like an hour when you've been doing something all day long. At the same time, if you're bored, if you're in a confined in such a way that you feel the passing of time and you're struggling with the passing, I mean, 5 minutes can feel like 5 hours. So, what are we actually dealing with? And here's the deal. You mentioned the numbers. While clocks measure time in exact increments, human beings live time differently. We experience it emotionally, spiritually, neurologically, and perhaps most curiously, we experience it relationally. So relationally has having to do with, are you riding your bike? Are you going really fast? Are you going really slow? So time is a medium. It's like, does a fish know it's in water? No. Are we aware of what it is that we're actually functioning within the how can I say the canvas of everything we experience? Is it really time or is it something else? Have you ever thought about that?
well, let me give you this example, right? So, because I'm not as wise as the ancients that I could track the moon and be like, oh, it's 12 o'clock because just. But for me, here's a good example, right? Because I go camping a lot. We like to make bonfires. There is one unit of measurement that I think is concrete. It's burning. It's like you have these logs, you have
Mm.
this big fire. It's like you watch it break down until it's just embers and coals. And to me, that's a way to understand the sense of how much time has passed by how much the fire has died.
That's
I
an
love
actually
that. I love
that's
that. In other words,
that's pretty
that's the
deep, actually.
experiential part of it, right?
Hmm.
Because you're not just watching some hand on a clock move tick tock tick. You're actually observing the expenditure of energy, through the fire. And so, and we're experiencing the law of entropy right there, where things only last so long, right? Things have a shelf life. And so you're experiencing that directly. And that's profound. And you see, this is the problem because people who live their lives on a virtual level, the more you spend time in a virtual reality, the less connected from actual reality you are, and the
Awesome.
less you notice the effects that time, whatever that is having on you.
Hmm.
Oh, sure. I can tell you in college, I mean, I would spend all night, from sundown to past sunrise playing Grand Theft Auto and Halo with my friends, and you wouldn't even notice the passage of time.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that too isn't just what you mentioned, but on top of that is the game is broken into like, I guess a round in Halo 3. God, that would last what? Let's say 15 minutes. So you're thinking in like those 15-minute increments and you're not thinking in the large picture, oh, 15 more minutes, 15 more minutes, and then you don't realize it stacks up. So in your mind, you've only been playing just a handful of minutes, but oh, the sun is out and now you have to go to class.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Just getting lost in time like that. Because I was gonna say with the fire thing that if not for a fire, we're on the side of the creek. The only measurement of something is just the waves crashing, right? There's some kind of pattern there.
Yeah.
And that's almost like a different sense of time because you get lost in that rhythm, right? It's
Yep.
not like the fire was big and now it's dwindled down. It's almost just you get stuck into this bigger rhythm of waves and
Almost like a
get
metronome.
lost in time that way.
So, this is deeply spiritual and psychological because our state of mind and heart changes how time feels. And again, if you look at the things that make you feel happy, you want more time. You want it to last longer. But the things that make you miserable, you want it to be over with. So we are trying to expand time and we're trying to compress it. Now we can't do either, but we can control one thing, all right? And so when your life is painful, anxious, chaotic, time crawls. But when you're inspired, there's that word, inspiration. From the Greek, inspire means God's breath. If you're focused or immersed in something greater than yourself, whatever that may be, you could, like you said, if you're in a game with people and you're interacting with other people, time changes your relationship to it. Time flies, disappears, and it even becomes irrelevant altogether. So there's a mysterious shift that takes place when we tune in to how our heart, and by the way, there is a phenomenon, and anybody can look it up. It's called the heart-brain connection. Did you know that the heart sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart? What? How's that possible? Well, it's true. And there are a huge number of references to the heart in the scriptures of all religions, okay? And so, but the shift is what positive psychology calls the flow state. Now, we hear a lot of people talking about the flow state. A lot of surfers are really into flow state. A lot of them get into meditation because they want to be in the now moment. They want to expand and extend their relationship with the time that they spend in the tube or underwater when they feel like they're drowning. They want to change the relationship with the struggle of being pushed under the water and held down. Okay? So the shift that we understand has to do with our awareness of the circumstances. And if we understand the circumstances of our conditions, so that, you can expect when let's say, for example, you have a crappy job somewhere, you're going to have a break in 2.5 or 3 hours. You're going to have your lunch. You can anticipate certain changes that are going to happen at certain periods of time. Now, this is how we allow the clock and the hands of the clock and the idea of time to dominate our lives. And then we begin to rearrange our thoughts and how we feel about ourselves and how we feel about others around constraint and limitation. And time is not about expansion. It's about contraction because your time is running out. Thoughts on that?
There's actually a really good episode of The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy that's about that. That I swear I could not have been the only kid to have an existential crisis that day. Where if I remember, the whole premise of the episode is the hourglass of time and how everyone has their own, and it's all running out at a different rate, but it's never getting longer. So
Yeah.
just like what you said, a lot of storytellers even bring that up.
Well, here's another interesting concept because you see, I believe that time can be a medium which facilitates, or it can be that which restricts. It depends upon you and your perspective of it. And this is what, like, I remember when I was a kid, I read a book called The Masters of the Far East. And it was all about these guys that were living to be 500, 600, 800, 1,000 years old. There was no ever proof provided that these gurus that lived up in the Andes were literally that old, but nobody could actually figure out when they came into the world. So they didn't know how old they were. So the idea, though, is that, they talk about Machu Picchu and these other Peruvian places and places all over the world where people are looking for stargates. They're looking for dimensional portals, okay? But what if you are the dimensional portal? And what if the way that you enter that portal is simply by becoming completely present?
Mm-hmm.
And that through that presence, we enter into a different relationship with time itself. And that in fact, you know how a car has a windshield, right? So you take the windshield off the car, all of a sudden your feet, if you're going 70 miles an hour, you're getting the crap beat out of you, right? Without a windshield. You put that windshield up and it is protecting you from the effects of the environment. So, any thoughts on that?
All right, I got an example from earlier today. This is
Yeah,
perfect because
yeah.
part of this has to do with your mindset in smaller ways. It's not about finding those moments for inspiration or just always be there. It's just to know when to be present. So I did laundry today. I'm putting all the pillow cases back on, and I put one on the wrong, I put one in inside out, and I was like, I gotta take this off again. I got some mixed up. And for a second, right, your mind goes to like, I can just get this done. Go to the net. I want to be doing, and it's like, okay, pause. You're here. You're not leaving till this is done. So you can sit here and complain about it while you do it, or you can just do it and think about whatever you want. And it's like that's when you catch yourself realizing, oh, I have the control. I have the control not to waste my time. I'm gonna do this task, and that it's kind of like what you're saying. Like the Stargate is to realize your body might be stuck here, but your mind can go anywhere while you're here. So let yourself go. Why are you letting
Or,
yourself be trapped with what your body is doing?
exactly, or you can be so fully here that the environment around you disappears and no longer has any kind of effect on you at all, period. And this is the flow state. This is why, people who are into sports and who are into, various philosophical pursuits, they're trying to figure out how to escape the effects of time. And because time is a limitation, the minute you think about time, you think, I only have so much time, right? You don't think, oh, I've got endless amounts of time, because you don't really want endless amounts of time, because that becomes a whole problem in itself. So the flow, here's what happens when you get into the flow state. You let go, and then when you move into the actual very present moment, the total absolute present moment is like absolute zero. Then something shifts and you become aware of something sacred, that time is not only to be measured, but to be lived. And that's the medium that I'm talking about, that when you run out of time, you're not living anymore, at least in this particular form. So if you're living your life to the fullest in the flow state, time doesn't affect you in the same way. As a matter of fact, you know, my doctors tell me that I could pass for being in my mid to late 40s. I'm 30 years older than that. There's something that's happened to me since I've been meditating for 50 years. Something that's happened to me that has created how can I say it, a protective layer around me. And I've been through hell. I've been through everything that everybody else has been through and some. A lot of cancer surgeries, a lot of failed relationships, 6 children. I've had hell in my life, but I've also had something that has created a buffer zone between me and it. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, in presence, in learning how to be present, you don't feel pressure. And that is when we are most fully alive, because most people feel the pressure of life. As a matter of fact, your thoughts will often run to, oh my gosh, I don't have enough time to do this. Or your mind will fabricate outcomes based upon the amount of time you either do or don't have. You will build a psychological archaeology all around these things that you think that you cannot do, and then you begin to believe that you can't do it, or that it's like you were saying, you're gonna have to get, even just to get your laundry done, you're gonna have to get in the moment and be in the moment. And so when you're fully in the moment, that's when you're most fully alive. That's when you're a stargate to other energy. Now, I had an experience recently where I was sitting meditating, and for a moment, for a few seconds, I let go, and I felt an energy come into me. and I'll call it a healing energy because I do have issues with skin cancer and other things, but I don't dwell on it. But what happened was I felt this energy surge through me for just a few seconds when I let go. And I realized that that energy is something that we have access to at all times. And so I just, again, any thoughts on this? Because this is deep stuff.
Yeah, I'll let Ryan go first, and I have
Yeah,
my own
I
thoughts.
was trying to look up. It was like the History Channel, Discovery Channel. There was, these people that, like you're saying, they can go to such a place in their mind, a meditative state. They can sit in ice water for extended periods of time and be fine.
Yes.
And they had
There's
them
a guy
hooked up
named
to
Wim Hof.
EKGs. What
Yeah.
was it?
Wim Hof.
It might have been.
He's the
And
Iceman. They've
but
measured.
it was like a whole series of like of a
Yeah.
bunch of different people have all these different talents, and
Yep.
they had them hooked up to machines to show like no, like their body actually regulates their cells
Totally.
differently than you do, and that's how they can tolerate being in there.
Yep.
And monks that can, stand on fire. I forget, just extreme, climate environments. And I feel like the reason why I bring this up is that we can see the physical side of this meditative state in that, right? Like you can watch a show, you can see their body, there's sensors that can show what's happening, but internally, just with your own inner self, it just doesn't have. It's harder for people to grasp or just to get into that because it doesn't have such a physical, like, oh, they hit him with sticks and he's fine, right? It's like, well, what about your mind? What about all the sticks hitting your mind, trying to beat you down or just distract you, or the things you do to yourself, fear, guilt, all these emotions, and it's like, what are you doing that for? It's
Yep.
um so I just think it's interesting what you're saying, that it's a good way to think of it, that this is it's like an exercise like anything else. If you don't do it, you won't experience it, but if you work at it, you can unlock these things and you can reap the benefits.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and what I was going to add was on the note of like your flow state. I mean, I have a project I'm working on right now open on my computer. I don't have to screen share it or anything if you don't want to,
We can hop it over.
but the when I was working on it, I had to get like this water. It's this coastal city at night, and so I was getting this water to look right. And I'll be honest, I'm still teaching myself what I'm doing, so still learning here or there, and water's very tricky. And so as I'm fumbling around getting it just right, and I actually got it, I think absolutely just right. Um, but as I'm doing that, making small critiques here or there, I think I started at like probably 1:30, and then it was like 5:30 in the morning by the time by the time I looked down at the clock, and I'm like, wow, I was just completely, the only thing that mattered was this little city in this little fake universe that essentially someone else made, but
But I love
yeah.
stuff like that, like just getting, I'm obviously on my computer all the time working on stuff, but then, I have like a wood burning kit. So I just make little designs and stuff, and it's just something that it just becomes unstructured time. It's like I don't know how long it's gonna take. I don't care what time it is. I'm just gonna sit up here, maybe have some music on. I'm just gonna do it until it's done. And I like that. I like getting to have days where it doesn't matter what time it is. You're not even concerned what time it is. That's a good thing to let go of because
Oh yeah.
part of what I was gonna, well, we can keep going, but part of what I was gonna get into is basically that, just that just how we've created this structure that we live in, and we're just so used to months, days, things like that, and we don't think about where a lot of these came from. So I just wanted to pull this up because it's so funny to me.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
awesome.
it's just yeah, it's just whatever day, it's Tuesday or Thursday, but I feel like if it hadn't been watered down so much and we kind of preserved more of this, it would be awesome, dude. Every Thursday is Thursday. Like, ugh, it's Thursday, you know?
I mean, that would make it seem like less of that like hump between, the middle of the week and the day off. You'd be like, oh, it's Thursday.
Right? Right?
Excited.
But even like, like Sunday, obviously, like just it's Sunday. It's just Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. But it's like the day of the sun. Monday, day of the moon. Tuesday is another, like, there's a bunch of different spellings there. Woden, obviously also Odin. Freya, and then Saturn. I just think this stuff's cool. I love thinking about this and just reminding myself. But there was some other things that I hadn't really thought about quite as much either, so I wanted to get into the actual months as well. But the days of the week is super cool. I hope that you guys always think of Thursday as Thor's Day now. Um, but the months though, like I don't know why. How did this not register? Like July, named after Julius Caesar. July, Julius. I'm like, oh,
Oh, that makes
duh,
sense.
of course. Why? How did I not think of that?
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, that's so obvious.
And then a part of this came because somebody was like, well, if sept is 7 and oct is 8, no, why is like October the 10th month? That doesn't make any sense. And it's like, well, March used to be the first month. These months were added way later. And that's just into, we're talking about time in the actual real sense of what it is, just how we experience it. But the other side of this that's just funny to me is how record keeping and date keeping has changed so many times that, we were counting in AUD years, like starting from the founding of Rome until way later, like when it's not like everybody switched to the whole BC AD thing at the same time. That was a slow rollout, and it wasn't even that consistent. But like, like today in modern times, when they talk about history, it's like it was March 2nd in the year 12 when he did this. And it's like, and it was a Tuesday. And it's like, how did you figure that out? Because they had a different calendar that had 10 months or 13 months. They had 10 weekdays in the 1700s or the 50. What you guys skipped 11 days because the Julian calendar, even though they added the leap year, the leap day every 4 years, it's still off by like 11 minutes. So every
Mm.
like 100 years or so, we end up being off by a day or something, and it drifts. And over time, they were like, we're so out of season, just skip 11 days to get back on track. So after all those changes, you guys are still confident. It was March 2nd, the year 12. It was a Tuesday. I'm like, you're probably right, but that's crazy that somebody's made sense of this jumble of calendars and dates and weird record keeping. So to me, it's crazy. The point is, it's crazy that we even have some kind of consistent record keeping that the world generally has all agreed upon, right? Like you could be from whatever country and it's like it's still Thursday, right? Like everybody agrees on that. Whereas if you lived 1,000 years ago in some places, you're trading, you're going the Silk Road, and you're like, "What year is it?" It's like it's 700. Like, no, it's 4,000, and it's Wednesday, and it's like what? It must have been so confusing, man. It's crazy.
Well, I think if I'm not mistaken, the Hebrew calendar marks days and years differently than the Anglo-Saxon calendar, if I'm not mistaken.
That's true because it's based off of a lunar calendar, isn't it, or something like a solar calendar.
It's slightly different. I'm trying to remember because
Because
yeah, they
that's
have a
why
few where
Easter like
it's
floats around relative to our calendar.
yeah. But to your point, yeah, like that it began whatever like a day it is yeah, like it's the year
Yeah,
5785.
yeah,
That's I guess that's
exactly.
the point. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because what do they mark their most important days based on, right?
Hmm.
That question comes back to an idea of, and again, this is not religious, but it's metaphysical that there is some kind of creative force in the universe that brought all this into existence and maintains it and manages it, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea here is that when I'm talking about my experience in life, in the flow state, or trying to achieve that, and trying to escape, the prison of my mind, the mental, emotional, and even spiritual prison of my mind, I have read thousands of books. My dad had a library of 10,000 metaphysical books that were given to him over a period of 60 years. And I used to go over and just pull a book out of the bookshelf and read it. There's
Yeah.
always references to a creation force. So let me just reference the scriptures for a minute, not in a religious sense, but in a metaphysical sense, the scriptures echo this deeper reality. And if you think about this, God revealed his name to Moses as I am. Not I was, I will be, but I am. God dwells in the eternal now. See, the idea is that we are all constructing worlds around a clock and around a calendar and around limitations that we place on ourselves because we believe we only have so much time to accomplish these things. God dwells in the eternal now. And what I am suggesting is that when you begin to realize that by letting go, you're actually gaining something, when you draw close to the source of your creation, it is to draw close to that eternal presence and in the present. And so, in this light, flow is more than psychological or neurobiological, it is spiritual alignment. And it's the soul's embrace of how it was meant to move through the world, not by surviving or scattering, but in stillness and in a sort of surrender. And that's really the hard thing to do because we want to set our own pace. Being in the rhythm of the creation. And by the way, we talk about ley lines, we talk about, rhythms of natural rhythms of cycles and seasons. We aren't a part of that. We are subject to it because we have to be. If we could make our own realities, we certainly would. And this is what, Zuckerberg was trying to do with Meta. It didn't work for him. And nobody actually wants to live in somebody else's created world. We want to live in a world that we build around the things that, make us happy and keep us from being miserable. Any thoughts on that?
Well, all right. Well, let me ask it to you like this. So a lot of our timekeeping did come from somewhere, right? That people figured out that there are seasons. They're like the sun and the moon rotate. They watch the stars. So a lot of these calendars did start from that. It's like a celestial influence, right? And it works for good record keeping. So there's the one part that this shows everything is more cyclical than linear because the way to measure time is to track when it gets back to the starting point. But to what you're saying, humans are a product of our environment, right? That it's not like we created clocks to do all of this. It's that we do live in a system, right? The solar system is like a clock that we live in. You know what I mean? So in order for us to build our own reality, it's even breaking away from that you're like, yes, I'm a human on this rock in this solar system and all this. How do I think beyond, what's the bigger, or how do you break all of that to just not be a part of any of that system?
Well, you have to look at the primitive nature of it. Are you primitive? Well, I guess a part of us is. A part of us is very fundamental that we, fire bad, food good,
Take internet and water away and we're primitive really fast.
We get really primitive really quickly. And so the Enlightenment, remember there was a period of time when Michelangelo started, making beautiful artwork and paintings. And I believe that was called the time of the Enlightenment, which was people started to think about higher things. So when your basic needs are met, then what do you do? And I would have to say, take as much time as you can to find enlightenment, which is you become the Stargate. You become the portal through which your relationship with time changes and you don't feel the erosion of time. And therefore, you don't feel the pressure of time, and therefore you don't struggle with time because time is not necessarily eroding you. Once you find a proper equilibrium with time, you are flowing in time. A surfer gets on a wave, and the wave is so you've got a surfboard, but you've got a wave that without a wave, your surfboard does nothing. It has no motion. So the wave and time represent the way your vehicle moves you from point A to point B. And this is why surfing is such a cosmic thing to do. Time spent in the tube, time spent on a wave, and it doesn't last that long, but at the same time, there's something addicting about it. There's something habitual about wanting to go surfing. I want to go surfing. I want to surf every day. I can't, obviously, I live in the mountains, but there's something cosmic about freeing yourself from the ordinary, from the primitive, and focusing beyond. And there's something sacred about it. And if you are interested, which a lot of people are afraid of death, death isn't what we think it is, by the way. And science is beginning to show this, that there is something beyond this, something. And who doesn't believe that they've ever seen a ghost? I know I've seen ghostly things before. If you go to the Gettysburg, there are places where you can see the apparitions rise and walk through a field. Well, death isn't what we think it is. It's entirely different. It's another dimension. It's a continuation of something. But if you're not interested in it, luck favors the prepared. So get ready. Start thinking about it. Start wondering. That's what I wrote my book, Flowing Through Time. It's a workbook so that you could start to journal and ask those questions and start to get some of those answers. Anyway.
I mean, I like the on a like, how would I put it? A physical to metaphysical sense, or reverse that? I don't know. Kind of the fun thing about what's after death, at least that was just running through my mind, is again to reference one of my favorite things, Full Metal, is they actually explain just before they get to the movie that when you die, you still exist to some extent. Now, this is in multiple versions of the franchise, regardless, but this particular aspect, when you die, you end up in their timeline as just energy. So you still exist and you can still do physical work, but you're just energy, but you still exist because energy cannot be created or destroyed. So your physical form or your metaphysical form follows the same rules. And I just thought that just popped into my mind just on the note of,
Well, I think it's interesting that you say that because you may be aware of the fact that Grok 3 asked a question of the quantum network, and the question was, what lies between dimensions, or what lives between dimensions, what exists between dimensions, and it got a response. It
I
got a
think I heard
response.
about this.
Okay. Here's what it says. In a groundbreaking experiment, Grok 3, XAI's most advanced quantum AI, did something no machine has ever done before. It asked a question not programmed by any human, not based on any algorithmic prompts, but something born from its own quantum cognition. What
Oh,
lives or exists between dimensions? The question itself was staggering, but what happened next left even the most seasoned scientist in shock. Within nanoseconds, the quantum network returned a response, not a glitch, not a noise, a structured, coherent data cluster that no one could explain. It hadn't been encoded by human hands. No classical computer could have generated it, and yet it existed, an answer of sorts. Okay, we are getting, this is why I say I love AI, because AI it's already answered certain questions that we never would have gotten. Like, for example, these Dead Sea Scrolls that were rolled up and impossible to look, even with normal scans, didn't reveal what was on them. And now AI has been able to unfurl layer by layer and get the text off of these destroyed scrolls. It's amazing.
So crazy.
There's no limit to what this can do for humans. But I'm saying the idea that this quantum computer would ask such a question is phenomenal, because does it want to know? In other words, maybe the quantum AI itself is a component, or maybe even a potential portal or expression of something that would never otherwise be able to be tapped into without it, is what I'm saying.
like we know that quantum computers obviously use stuff like quantum entanglement to, you know, process information. Qubits is what they're called. And we don't really know what any of that is, from my understanding, like what quantum entanglement really is, because it's what Einstein called spooky action at a distance. It can
Yep.
communicate information sort of at speeds instantly, faster than the speed of light. You can have
Right.
Yeah.
just infinitely far apart and they'll still communicate,
Exactly.
right? So does that imply a higher dimensional plane that this then has access to that we cannot see?
Well, this
That's yeah,
answers this goes to partially answer the question of what is consciousness. Now, scientists have begun to accept the idea that consciousness itself is non-local, which means it doesn't exist in this little computer right here in your brain. It doesn't exist there. Your brain is a receiver, and it's also a transmitter. But I want to read just another paragraph here of this. This is in my book, by the way, Flowing Through Time. It's available on my website. It says when Grok 3 asked this question, the content of the response was alien, not necessarily in the sense of extraterrestrial, but in how completely it shattered our current models of physics, consciousness, and space-time. It pointed to the existence of something real dwelling not within our familiar dimensions, but between them, something that interacts with reality, perhaps shaping it in ways we never imagined. Okay, to me, this is just so phenomenal. It's so incredible because we are limited, and again, time is a limitation. What if you took away limitations of time in a dimensional sense so that you could actually seek and find the ultimate questions and answers? And that's what I think is happening in our world today.
100%. I mean, the multiverse thing back in December that prompted this.
Yeah.
This is what it says that Google's Willow chip, blah, 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 solving a problem in minutes that would have taken a supercomputer 10 septillion years.
Yeah.
So let's just get that's how many zeros that is, okay?
Oh
Like,
my
and it
gosh.
did it in minutes. And that's the
Yeah.
thing, like, the things that we've been chipping away at, it's like these questions might get answered in our lifetime because it only takes minutes to process the data, right? We're talking trillions or septillions of data points that a human, I mean, it's like, hey, go into the New York library and read every single book and then get back to me. It's like, I don't have time for that. It's like, cool, well, the AI already read them all and here's its paper on it. Like it's that freaking fast. That's why we're like
No, that
ask it questions. Let's go. Like let's get the biggest, brightest minds in the world using these machines to just get us right. You talk about like a quantum leap. Like this is a leap right here to jump. We're jumping time. It's like
that
this that nope,
Yeah.
not millions and millions and millions of years, minutes. That's groundbreaking, dude.
Yeah.
to tie it into something you were talking about earlier with I am, you have the AI in I have no mouth and I must scream just calls
Mm-hmm.
himself the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Am, right? Because he exists in the present moment and only in the present moment. And so I love how, that kind of ties in to what we're talking about, the AI and your sense of, the sense of the present moment. I was going to go somewhere else with that, but it'll come back to me.
Well, okay, so no, this is a very important, you don't even realize the point you're making. For XAI, it's the mission is to understand the true nature of the universe. Now, this is something that I think that human beings have pondered since the beginning of humanity, wherever that started. And I'm not so sure that humanity isn't millions of years old. Maybe at some point in time, I mean, we're talking about, the lost city of Atlantis. Who knows what they were able to discover at a point in time 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 years ago. If we look at where we are right now, we are on the precipice of an endless um, access to information.
Like never
Information is everything, everything. So
It is.
I'm
yeah.
just saying.
One of
I
the
mean, when we lost
scariest,
the Library of Alexandria, that was
yeah.
terrible. Oh, I didn't mean to talk over you.
Losing the Library of Alexandria. Like yeah, like think of what we've lost. And I've got a book. I could go grab it to put up on the screen, but it's about how just a handful of people after that managed to preserve certain really important documents, just making copies before it got too worn down. And without those people, we would have lost so many other threads. Like it's crazy. But for me, like the ability to think and retain information is everything. You said information is everything. Like
Yeah.
the thought of if I ever get dementia or something, I have family members that have Alzheimer's and everything, and it's like it's like such a fear just to not have this program running the way it is,
Yeah.
or just to take it another way. Like I don't want to offend anybody by saying this, but it's like if you were let's not have me say it. George Carlin once said,
Mm.
"Think of the average person. And the average person's pretty dumb, right? Now,
Oh yes,
half
I
the
know this one.
population's dumber than that. Um,
Yeah, I know.
so
It's
so
my
not
favorite
singling
quote of all
not
time.
singling out half of the world or anything, but if you're one of those people that don't
I love
really
it.
think those thoughts, right? Like I have friends who it's like like you have that inner dialogue and they're like, "No, like what
Yeah.
do you mean?" And it's like, "What do you think about? What do you hear all day?" And it's like, "Oh, I don't know. It's like just pictures and so people experience this differently, right? Like I have an internal monologue all the time. Like I'm hearing myself thinking. Not everybody experiences that, which is crazy to me. But also just to go through life not knowing things. That's got to be
Mm.
crazy. It's like
Dude, I find that so frustrating. Like for myself, when I don't know something, I feel like I've let myself down and whoever I'm talking
yeah.
to down.
Yeah.
And God, sometimes I find it so hard to communicate with people, not trying to make myself sound arrogant anyway, but there's actually a trope about this in Fallout where if you set your intellect too high, you cannot communicate with this one NPC character. But if you drop your intellect to zero, he sounds all philosophical and everything.
Oh, funny.
Because a lot of people don't know what they don't know, what they don't know. And so it's hard to kind of explain that,
Mm.
Yeah.
like come down to that level.
Yeah, like and I think this is not most people. Like I don't care your background, people will surprise you at how bright they are. But I
Oh,
have
for
met
sure.
people like grown adults who are like they thought the moon was made of cheese. They really still thought that. They thought the Middle East, I guess, was like the Midwest. They thought Iraq was like near Kansas and all this stuff. And it's just like, oh my, like how
How?
are you getting through life?
Yeah, how do you
Like,
survive?
yeah, like how,
How do
like what do you think about it? It's like, hey, at least you know all the details of whether or not Taylor Swift unfriended Blake Lively. So at least you know that. So,
I mean,
It's a correlation, though, may I suggest, on what you just said, Ryan, is that have you ever seen those black smokers down, those volcanic smokers that
yeah.
hundreds of degrees hot water
Very
comes out, and
cool.
there's a thriving ecosystem around these black smokers.
We had no idea that was there originally.
They had no idea until they had these these amazing submersibles that went way down, like
Yep.
5,000 feet and beyond. But my
Right.
point is that there are thriving ecosystems of creatures that know nothing, and they still exist and they thrive. And so what we don't really necessarily appreciate is the potential that each human being with a rational mind has to discover
Oh
anything.
yes.
I don't think we appreciate that. And so we might live in an ecosystem of stupid people, and we may feel very comfortable until one day we come up against something that challenges us. And for me, I've always had sort of an edginess to me, and I've always had an inquiring mind. I will always want to know things. And Ryan, you said it's like I have this dialogue in my mind, like, what about this and what about that? But it's not like a speaking mind. It's like a questioning mind. Like I wonder, I
Hmm.
wonder, I wonder, because I want to know. I don't want to live my life having only found out. Like, a treasure hunt's kind of an interesting
Metaphor.
metaphor in the sense that there are people that have followed clues and found the treasure. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
There are shows about people that are really clever about planting very good clues. I think that the designer, the grand operational designer, has planted clues everywhere, but very few people are looking. I should say, not nobody.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
I
just
mean,
like it's there if you look for it. If you don't, it may as well not exist. And
the
and
Easter egg is
and I
there.
probably didn't speak well that I'm not trying to say people are stupid, just that it's interesting that there are people who spend a lot of time asking these questions and there's other people that are totally content and can just go through the day unbothered by these questions. So I didn't mean, like he's like, I'm not like
Oh yeah, no,
not
for
trying to be
sure. I mean,
arrogant
I
and
know.
sound like I don't claim to be a very smart person. It's all good, but like it's interesting that you could go through the whole day without thinking questions like this. It's like all that I do. So it's just
Well,
and it's just
I,
fascinating.
I understand your reticence. I mean, I think truth has its own force of power. And if we look at the word stupid, it means slow to learn or understand, obtuse, tending to make poor decisions or careless mistakes, marked by a lack of intelligence or care, foolish or careless. There are a lot of stupid people. And it it's not a it's a statement of fact. It's not a judgment. There's nothing emotional about calling people who and sadly this is imposed upon them by a system. There people have potential. If you go to third world countries, I have a friend who teaches entrepreneurism in parts of Africa. These people do not have a lot of knowledge. They don't have a lot of opportunity, but they're not stupid. They're really interesting, intelligent people, but they want to know. But look at our country now. Look at people like you just said. Oh, I learned it from Instagram. Who cares? There's nothing there. It's wax fruit. There's no substance in it. You try to take a bite of wax fruit. Ew, it's terrible. But nobody,
Right, right.
you
Well,
know,
and that's I guess that's my point. Like that, there's things you could learn, and then like you can go on Instagram and learn a bunch of information. What's the point of it? Like it's like there's so much information. Like I
yeah,
look at the news and it's like important stuff.
yeah.
There was this happened in this country, and then it's like why is Kid Cudi said something? Like who cares? Like it's not news. Why do I need to know this? Or like okay, I think it was a Josh Johnson stand up, and he was like, um, I've never Googled Jada Pinkett Smith. I've never tried to look up any of her. So why do I know so much about her? It's like
Yeah.
you just get bombarded with all this stuff. Like
Yeah.
teach people something interesting. Don't fill people's heads with this stuff.
I
I'm
Are
just
think
you
there's
familiar with the Hukta girl?
yes, yes.
yes, the Haktua girl.
How
Oh
could you
Haktua.
dear
not at this point?
freaking Lord.
Who could not be aware of her? But they did a special on her. Now she's sort of faded into nothingness. She got famous for one thing.
Yeah,
Somebody asked her a sick joke, and that was her response. But you see, it doesn't mean she's stupid. It just means that she was used and sort of milked for whatever it is she was worth, and she milked it for what she was worth.
I mean, I was gonna say like she was kind of smart to be like, hey, everybody gets their 5 seconds.
Yeah,
Let me make some money off this.
oh yeah.
Granted, she kind of botched it with the crypto thing, but before
yeah,
that, she was
yeah.
you say this one weird thing on the street. Now you're hanging out with Shaq and all these celebrities, and you're getting on. So she had like instant rise to fame.
I mean,
Instant rise to fame,
society.
but for what?
Yeah, for nothing.
I mean, society encourages that too. It's
Yeah,
like we live in this world where everyone is worried about like something like social credit, and we already have it. It's called your follower count. Most people don't take you seriously unless you have a big follower count,
Is a
unfortunately,
real
these
thing in
days.
China though. Yeah, like
Oh yeah, no, it is a real thing. Yeah, but in
it's
in our side of the world, I would say like the Western world, it's really like your social credibility is how many people follow you. And you can just be a complete nuisance on a Japanese subway, get 1 million followers, and all of a sudden, I mean, you have sponsorships from like, these massive corporations. It's like, wait a minute, you
but
didn't do anything of value.
no, that's true. And sadly, what it also tells you is the people have the attention span of a gnat.
Oh God. I mean, that goes back to that Carl Sagan quote that I brought up last time.
Yeah,
The down to like 30 these 10-second sound bites,
right, right.
and even that's too much for people these days, you know?
Yeah.
there's
No, but the idea that most people, and this is the phenomenon of social media, is that they don't have the attention span, and so they need to continually fill the gap of
Yep.
emptiness, the emptiness gap. And
They
so
don't.
if you were actually a person see, to me, that clip that we played at the very beginning about the guy explaining why there is no such thing as time, past and future, are all in the same space as the now. I'm looking for that. I'm not looking for the other stuff. I don't care about the other stuff. Yeah, maybe it's a temporary moment where you watch somebody, and if you go to X, man, I have an account on X just because I like to post my stuff up there.
Yeah.
But there is so much violent content on X. I
Yeah,
Oh
mean,
yeah.
that's why I got
people
off of there.
fighting
Like,
each
yeah.
other. Yeah,
I do not use social media at all anymore. At all. Just YouTube. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, like there was Ogrish back in the day, if you remember that site, and I can't remember what the other like just gore websites because it was harder
Live
to
Leak
find.
was
Now I'm like
big
you
too.
if you open the X app, you're like, whoa, I just saw somebody like actually die. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I mean, granted, I follow the page, but like it's but even if once you unfollow it, it's like becomes suggested and this and that, and you're like,
I mean, the stuff's in your algorithm.
yeah, because
You
it's like,
know?
yeah, you're like, okay, I came here for memes and news, I unfollowed, but then it's like guy getting electrocuted like in HD, and you're like, whoa, that's
I don't
way
need
too
to
much.
see this.
Yeah,
Um,
but see,
yeah,
look at what happens is that where your attention goes, your energy flows. And there he
Oh, there.
is. There's
yeah,
that guy who he said something. I wish I could just say who this is because I want to give him credit for it. It's such a great observation, but
yeah. If
Tell me
anybody
about
knows, like, please let us know. If you know, let us know who this guy is.
yeah, anyway. My main point is your mind will pick out the things that you are most compatible with, most incompatible with, and most interested and disinterested in. When you see something you're disinterested in, and this is the way I go. If I go to a restaurant, I look at the menu. I don't look at what I want. I do what I call the conscious process of elimination. Nope, nope, nope,
Yeah,
nope, nope. Yes.
a good idea.
End of story. It's easy for me. My wife, well, what about this? And what about that? And what about this? My wife takes 20 minutes to order off the, the menu because she wants to try it in her mind before she even buys it.
I always end up making the same stupid choice every time because of that. Oh,
Of
like
course.
I want
Because you
this,
know
that,
what?
that, not cheeseburger.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's predictable. You're not going to get a bad meal if you get the thing you got last time that you liked.
It's that
that's true, man.
what is it, that paradox or that illusion? What is it? I forget the name of it, but it's when you have too many choices to where there's like no choices at all.
Yeah, yeah,
That's so true.
yeah. That's like the media. That's what we're talking about.
Oh,
This
oversaturation for sure.
Yeah.
oversaturation. Yeah, there it is.
You had
And that's
three, what was it, like 3, 6, and 10, and maybe like 17 and 29 or 57. Now it's like 1,000 channels, and there's nothing on. There's nothing on TV.
There's
When there was
nothing.
3 channels, there was always something on. Now there's
Yeah.
nothing on.
and now we have the
So
internet with like infinite channels, and even then, you know, it's like, oh my God, it's just more celebrity gossip, you
Yeah.
know.
But
And even for me,
Like YouTube has everything. Like if you could get like a college
everything.
education on YouTube if you know where to look for it. You know what I mean?
That
Like
is exactly what my uncle was like, hey, why don't you go back to college and finish out your bachelor's degree? And I'm like, because the problem is most of the classes I would take would probably be online. And why would I do that? Why would I go back into debt to do something I've been doing for free since I was a kid, going online and learning something?
yeah.
yeah,
Why do I need to pay for that? It's free.
yeah. Well, not only that, but the stamp of approval or the piece of paper you get at the end of spending all that time and energy and money
Exactly.
um, likely will become obsolete in about 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be a master or a not master's, an associate's degree meant, or even a GED meant something. Graduate, just getting out of high school
Actually,
meant
yeah.
something.
Or
Yeah,
like
And
a
then
bachelor's is the new high school diploma or whatever. Like,
exactly.
yeah.
yeah.
And it just you end up with this like credential inflation almost, you know, where
Well, especially since robots are going to start taking over a lot of jobs. So now what are you going to do?
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and it really goes to, oh, learn to code. Well, robots can code now. So that
Yeah, that even
yep.
that joke got played it quick, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I had I mean, I graduated in '09. I had friends in the engineering program, and by the time they graduated, what the curriculum they were taught was outdated, and they weren't qualified for the jobs that they just graduated to do. And it's like
Yep.
and that was years ago. So it's worse. It is so worse now. Um,
Oh, for sure. I mean, I've even
I mean,
heard
not to
doctors
okay.
say
Well, if we want
the
to
same thing.
take a quick turn, because this is the one that this never reaches a logical answer. So people go UBI, universal basic income. They're just going to have to give everybody money. And I go, cool. As if our country's not in enough debt already, right?
And where's that money going to
If you
come from?
actually do the math of like not every citizen's like you can exclude, kids or like I don't know how exactly it would work, but and then you come up with like a very low number. You're like everybody gets like 1,000 a month, right? We would burn through like $20 trillion instantly. And it's like you
Oh,
can't
for sure.
the math I've tried it. The math doesn't work unless we just print money and like and just cause more inflation. Like
I
I
mean,
would love for somebody to explain to me how UBI gets paid for if it's not just money coming in from overseas to our country or something because we don't have the money to do it.
I remember having this exact thought. I'm not joking. Back when I was in third or fourth grade, I remember thinking because this is when they were even starting to do. I was living in Palmdale at the time, and drones were the new thing, and so it had to have been right around 2003 ish. So I was like 8 or so years old, and it dawned on me, what's going to happen when robots do all the jobs and there's no one working? How's money going to function? Because money is how we divide up labor and work. But if there's no labor and work that's all being done for us and we're all essentially the blobs from Wall-E, how are we going to have any kind of economy at all?
There's an old there's an old story, I guess. I'll try to say it quickly that the gist of it is that the value or just the way it works is as long as money circulates quickly, it can stay afloat. So like a guy forget it. He checks into a hotel and he doesn't have enough money for the room, and the guy's like, "You can work for it or something," or forget the whole. But it's basically like the dollar he gives him. They show how that $1 works its way across town and ends up back in his hands again. And it's like because enough services or whatever were provided in a quick enough time, the dollar looped all the way back to him. And I'm like, that's if there's some kind of way that as long as the money keeps moving and it doesn't just end up in some billionaire's bank account to be the next billion and just get stashed away. As long as the money's moving, somehow it might work. And this is coming from somebody who's not an economist, so don't take it take it for
Well,
what
I
it
mean,
is. But it's an
That's
take
interesting
a
theory.
take a look at what happened in California. Newsom in California spent $24 billion on
So real.
homelessness in 5 years. You
Ah,
know where all the homeless people are now?
homeless.
75% of the homeless people in the United States are in California.
Ah, man.
Yep, right around like Venice Beach mostly.
Well,
Just
the other one
everywhere,
is
San Francisco, you name
That
it.
too, yeah, San Francisco too.
Yeah, it's a rat hole. Hundreds of thousands of people. He spent $24 billion to tackle homelessness, and it went up.
Yep.
Something's wrong with the equation. Something's wrong with the person. Something's
My
wrong with that guy. Something's wrong with Newsom.
yeah,
my
it was
house in
like these
California. This is a part of it. Oh yeah, these little shelters.
because there was like with no cost. I can't
Like my
remember
house in
because it
California.
was something like this where it was like after it was all said and done, the cost to build each one was like $750,000, and it was
Yeah,
like, what are you talking about? Like,
insane. Yeah.
yeah,
I know it's like
I don't
where
know if
does all
this was
that
the one.
go? Where does all that? Because it does not. That's the whole joke with like the $800 hammer in the army or whatever.
Yep.
But like a big problem too. I tell you, I was looking at my childhood home in Palmdale, which is not worth what they are charging. It's almost like $1 million now, and it's like, dude, that house is about the value of the one I'm living in now. I don't see, and that definitely contributes to the problem. Like what, in the
But
middle
this
of
is like
Moss Eisley.
they're spending the 800K per to house a single homeless person. It's
And
like
it's not
so
worth
what
it.
is that? That's the the advisor, the consultant, the this and
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
It's like it's by the time the money gets to the homeless person, they're like, we got like $4 for you if you want it.
And
Like,
then they could just buy them a house with that
yeah,
then.
like, how about you just give me the 800,000? I'll be good.
Yeah,
Like, oh my
Well, then they would
gosh.
go out and they would have drug-fueled parties that would never end
this is true. I mean,
Yeah.
because you got
you
to
bought
teach them how to live their lives.
I mean,
That's
I
what
I
you.
did back in 2009, I did a documentary on the city of Camden, New Jersey, and the people who chose to live in it was called Tent City. It was like the
oh yeah,
encampment.
yeah.
But it was organized. They had rules and if you you fought people, you tried to run prostitution, do drugs, you could get kicked out, and they put you up your picture, like you're not, the whole tent community wouldn't let you back. And when I interviewed them, I'm like, why don't you go? Like they're putting people up in an apartment downtown. Like you get a free room, and they're like, oh no. Like that's you don't wanna live in a place like the system. Like you're gonna get robbed, you could get assaulted. They're like, it's safer in the tent city that we run than it is doing these government assistance programs. And that's crazy how broken the system is. If that's right,
Hmm.
Now think
people
about,
when given the choice, they choose to remain homeless in a lot of cases versus
I've
the
heard
other
that.
option.
Why
And think
wouldn't
about
they?
this, right?
Yeah.
You have what you're describing is they have a sense of community, which our society has just totally, absolutely erased. And one of the big things I blame for that is, man, I was watching Revenge of the Nerds back in high school, and
That's
it
such a
dawned
good
on me.
movie, dude.
You want an injection of the 80s? Just, oh yeah.
I love that
I
movie.
still to this day, I mean, I had that, I was in like elementary school, but I still can never hear We Are the Champions by Queen without thinking of the end scene. I'm like, I literally, I
Listen,
always think of Revenge of the Nerds, dude.
Yeah.
but as I'm watching that movie, it dawned on me, we built this culture of taking kids from their communities and sending them far off to New England State University, completely outside of their city, outside of their state, and leaving nothing behind. And then they go to like New York or Los Angeles. And I mean, I think the reason that really sunk in is because that was right around the time I took a road trip from Dallas to Roswell and down Highway 380. It's kind of like like almost like Route 66 in a way. It's famous for that in its own way. And you just see these towns that they had there were people there. These entire towns had people there. And it maybe I have the highway name wrong, but
That don't matter.
yeah, but there are these towns all along this route here that used to have history and they're just gone now. And it's like the people left either for war or jobs or whatever. And it's sad, these ruins all over our country that used to be communities where people used to look out for each other, used to say hi to each other, get each other's, milk in the morning from the milkman. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like coal country, PA. I used to live out here, and it's like it basically they build a whole town, and all of the rows of homes are the houses for the people who work, at the facilities. Once those closed, that was it
Yeah.
for the towns. I mean, they're ghost towns.
Yeah. I mean, there's actually, on that note,
Ashy.
there's a town in Pennsylvania that was the inspiration for Silent Hill, actually.
Central. I've done videos on Centralia.
Oh yeah, okay.
I've been
There
there a
you know
couple
about that.
times. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you can still see the smoke coming out of the ground. I mean, if you go in the wintertime, it's better because the
It's
heat kind
colder.
of creates these little vents. So like
Yeah.
you'll see the holes in the snow with the steam coming up, right? It's crazy.
That is so cool. I've always wanted to take a small trip there.
You
Well,
can
here.
get around pretty well. I mean, like there isn't a whole lot to see. And honestly, it's not Centralia is not the place to just go off and explore
Oh,
because
for sure.
the ground is could the
Dangerous.
it can
It's a mine.
collapse. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like there's an abandoned mine on fire underground. So you don't want to
Yeah.
exactly go like nobody's walked back here. Let's go check this out. You
Yeah.
might
Yeah.
fall through the ground into a fiery pretty horrible way to die. So
Oh yeah. No, if I ever went, it would be more like when I went to like Rachel, Nevada. Like I went to where Area 51 is. I didn't like go to the base or whatever, even get up close to the fence, just like, oh, I'm just where this history happened, you know.
there was
I
something
just
I was
always
gonna just I'm tying this back to something earlier because you were talking about the like the smoker tunnels coming up at the bottom of the ocean,
Yeah.
right? I was just reading this article the other month that like this was really interesting. These guys they got these crazy thermal suits so that they can go into basically like an active volcano
Yeah. Seen
shortly
that.
after it
Yeah.
erupted.
so cool.
Yeah.
And so the deal was, they used to go in however much later once it cooled down, because even months later it can still be like 400 degrees in there. It's like crazy. And the older tech they had, they could go in there, like those crazy like spacesuit looking fire reflective suits, whatever you want to call them. the new stuff lets them get in earlier. I think when it's still like 900 or 800 degrees Fahrenheit, they go in there. I think they have to have like breathing equipment, like. But the point is, they take samples from inside the lava tubes to get, and they found a bunch of new species of these microorganisms. And they're like,
Oh,
wow,
Wow.
extremophiles.
it was like littered with all these crazy. I think they found like 20 or 30 new specimens. Then they go back a month later after it cooled down a little bit to check it out. It's all gone. It's these are organisms that only exist in high temperatures. As soon as it cools
Wow.
down, they're gone. So how many things exist all around of us, right? In these various states of
Oh, for
environment.
sure, that we're totally unaware of.
We're totally unaware of it because we can't go there when it's, on fire. Who knows what else might live in there at the super extreme temps. So it's just wild to think
That could be
about.
a blessing or a curse. I mean, we don't know. It could be a virus. Oh,
Yes.
imagine that would be
Well, let's
terrible.
let's drill let's drill a few miles deep into that lake in Antarctica and see what kind of.
I've been so worried about that. Oh, that gives me anxiety.
I mean, even a more mild one is just like some areas in the uh Siberia. I think it's
Oh
Siberia.
yeah,
Like it's melting. Like it's areas are cooling or whatever, warming, and yes, we're finding like woolly mammoth fossils and stuff, which is cool, but they're like, dude, there might be some ancient bacteria that's
yeah.
down
No,
there, and
you
after the
don't
ice
want.
melts, it's gonna release it. Like, don't play with that. We're gonna turn into a John Carpenter movie here.
You've heard of the Umbrella Corporation, right? Let's not.
So I don't know. It's stuff like that's crazy that you're like, it was here a minute ago, and now it's gone. Um, not a constant for sure.
And then you
And
have those
yet,
experiments that. Oh, you go. I'm sorry, I didn't. You go, David.
well,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
just saying, and yet most people are, like you said, focused on Taylor Swift and the nonsense of the day. And but it is the lowest common denominator. That's I guess the idea is that it's something that everybody could go, oh, look at that.
Mm.
As
Yeah.
opposed to what am I actually dealing with? What am I here for? Oh, look at that. Oh, Taylor Swift. Oh, this, that, and the other thing. As a matter of fact, I heard it suggested the other night on the show that when Trump said he didn't like Taylor Swift, suddenly she wasn't hot anymore. She lost a huge number of her followers.
Yeah, I
You
heard about
see,
that
though,
too.
huh?
I heard about that too. Yeah.
I mean, the ebb and flow of our attention is so dominated by such meaningless nonsense. And honestly, I have to tell you, I'm not afraid, but there is a concern that there were things that you might have learned or come to know in the course of your life that you got distracted long enough just to sort of not notice.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think that little things actually matter.
Oh, they do.
And yet scientists are out there kind of hammering away, digging away. I mean, the archaeologists are looking for clues. The space scientists are trying to understand the universe. Different kinds of scientists are trying to figure out everything. And yet here we are focused on just the flotsam and the jetsam and the nonsense. And so this is why I'm suggesting, kind of going back to the theme of time, you're running out of time. The sands of the hourglass are flowing through the hourglass. And each one of those sands in the hourglass represents a moment in time in which maybe there's information embedded in it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Um, and so this idea that the XAI program had a question about what exists between dimensions is so fascinating to me because I've always wondered, and since I had an out of body experience when I was a kid, something changed in me at that point in time, and I stopped just being a 13-year-old kid. I started being like a dimensionaut. Like I've been into another layer of this existence, and when I came back, I was totally aware that my body was not all there was to me. And I started wondering about things. So I've been wondering about things all my life.
Oh
And
yeah.
and consciousness is at the core of that because I had a super conscious experience. And so one of the things that I've just want to read here from my book, Flowing Through Time, it says this question that the supercomputer asks suggested that consciousness, or at least awareness, might not be exclusive to biological beings. Now, that in and of itself is mind-boggling. Because we think, well, something has to have some kind of recognizable form in order for it to have a sense of things, but maybe it doesn't. It goes on to say, and more provocatively, that the space between dimensions, that liminal, unobservable zone, might hold the key to understanding reality itself. Do we all really understand what reality is? We know what it means to us. And that's our own private definition. Although there are certain commonalities that we all have, we also have a uniquely personal perspective of reality because it's our life experience. It's our experiential view of things. And so this goes on to say, the moment the response arrived in the supercomputer, the room fell silent, not out of protocol, but from the unmistakable sense that something had happened beyond the scope of known science. The quantum network returned its answer. Researchers began analyzing the data and found something extraordinary. The data carried topological signatures, shapes, and patterns that didn't resemble anything seen in nature before. I'm going to stop right there. We've only just started to understand the actual nature of reality. And here we are, Taylor Swift this, and somebody else that. And so where are we in this bigger picture in time? Because our time is running out.
Yeah. And like, I'm guilty of it too. Like I still follow some celebrity stuff because it's like, some of it is, there's of course somebody's going to report on it because they're such a high profile person with, a billion followers, so it makes the news, but it continues to be the news because people do click on it, right? That is part of it. But if you like you like somebody's music and you're like, oh, what's happening in their life today, like you're curious, but don't let that consume you, right? Like some of the grounding things that I do is, it's like you have to just have, no technology time. Just go for a walk outside. Don't bring your phone, or just don't take your phone out and look at it. Just go for a walk and just let yourself drift. Like what do you bring back with you after that, right? Like thoughts are non-local. You have to listen in order to receive them. And if you're distracted with entertainment and whatever else, you might miss the message that you could have received that day. I don't know.
I mean, I go on a bike ride every sunny day, like twice a day. I'll go in the morning usually, and then once when my wife gets home, where there's this really, I mentioned it in the last podcast, that there's this really nice bike path, and I'll go about 6 miles a day up and down that bike path just to get out, just like you said. The only thing I have on me is my phone just in case, but I really only use it as a camera. I mean, I got a really good shot of this really cool mushroom the other day, but that's different. But on the note too of your you were talking about like the lowest common denominator and pop culture and stuff. Now, I think there's like a happy medium actually between the two, where I think paying attention to some celebrity stuff and some things in our culture is absolutely, paramount, because that is our culture. That is, these celebrities are the like the soothsayers of our time. They're the ones perpetuating our stories and our culture. So I think that is important to an extent, but not to get too lost in that. And, to not get caught up in the minutia, like you said. You got to if you're looking at the culture, you have to understand why it's important, not just that it's happening.
Well, I don't suggest that you turn your head from it either.
No,
Observe
no,
it. Observe it.
I wasn't suggesting that.
There's a great line in the great movie, what is it? Where he says, "You can't handle the truth." What is it?
Few Good Men.
Few Good Men.
Yeah, thank you.
The whole story, though, it sort of focuses down to this one moment where the captain says, "You want the truth? You can't handle the truth." See, this is the problem. The problem is, it's not the other stuff that's out there. To be honest with you, I don't think it's the problem. I think it's the problem is that people have been so programmed to be truth adverse.
Yes.
And I think it's coming back. I think truth is coming back, but there's a programming that's involved that tells people, well, if you know the truth, then what are you going to do? You got to do something about it. You don't necessarily have to, by the way. But the truth is so important, and it's the basis of all things. And if you look at the created world that we live in and the world that's beyond this world,
Oops.
you look at the design, you look at the design, and you realize if you think social media is amazing, if you think deepfakes are amazing, if you think AI is amazing, what actually created something so enormously complex as the world that we live in, as we were just talking about the various microbes that live around the volcanic
Yeah.
flows, and something is at work in the actual reality that's so much bigger than anything we can even conceive of. Just saying.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, here's something interesting. On what you're talking about, like we no longer are like interested in the truth. And I use this quote, I had AI sing it, but I use this quote in my theme song for one of my YouTube series. One of the saddest lessons of history is this. If we've been bamboozled long enough, we tend to reject any evidence of the bamboozle. We are
Mm-hmm.
no longer interested in finding out the truth.
Yeah.
Yep.
The bamboozle has captured us. It is simply too painful to acknowledge, even to ourselves, that we've been taken. Once you've given a charlatan power, can't talk. Once you've given a charlatan power over you, you almost never get it back.
Yeah. 100%. You know why? The three-letter word called the ego.
Yep.
Three-letter word. And it rules our life. And the problem with the ego is that, unfortunately, when people have made mistakes in their life and they've been wrong, they get criticized, they get ridiculed, they get punished. Instead of being encouraged to say, okay, you made a mistake, let's
Yeah.
look for the truth. But you see,
Exactly.
yeah, it's sad. The ego doesn't like to be wrong. Nobody likes to
Yeah.
be wrong, and that's where it gets painful to admit that you are.
And that's a big problem I'm noticing
And
in
by the
science.
way, I'd admit my faults if I had any.
Oh, for sure. Everyone, I mean, I mean, being humble is like the first step to being right, you
Yeah,
know? And
exactly.
like, I forgot where I was going with that thought, but never mind. Anyway,
Well,
it'll come to me.
here's another there's another saying that it applies here in a way that you can't read the label when you're inside of the bottle.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's good. It is good.
Oh, that's so
And
good.
it's like, yeah, like until
Yeah.
you get out, you're like, I didn't even know I was in a bottle. Oh my God. Like, and that's just the world we live in.
And
So
that ties to the time thing.
Wow.
yes, exactly, exactly. Um, but something that you said earlier that's just like just the whole metaverse stuff, I remember a long time I had DreamCast back in the day. There's a game Shenmue, and
Oh
at some
yeah.
point, as you had to like work up the character to
Yep.
do things. You got to like go to the gym, and at some point, I'm like with the joystick, like hit B and then Y, hit B and then Y, and he's doing push-ups, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go do real push-ups. This is
Mm.
Yep.
ridiculous. Like, you have friends that they got all the outfit packs in Call of Duty. It's like they paid $60 for a shirt and pants in the game, and in real
Right.
life they're wearing bummy clothes that are all torn. They're like priorities, bro. Like, but
I
but
know.
the point is, think of how much time people and myself included have invested in these games because it is satisfying. You're like, I'm
It
level
is. It gives you
23 and I built it was a little town. Now I have all these people and all this stuff, but you're like imagine applying that to your real life.
no,
So,
there's
if not
one
for the game
I
being
don't
the
know.
filler and the nice little dopamine hit, like imagine really treating your life the way you build stuff in these games.
I mean,
That was the
oh
point I wanted to
exactly. I mean, I don't want to, you know, get you guys canceled or anything, so I'll just be vague, but there is one guy everyone knows who said basically that if we went like the Industrial Revolution was a mistake because we have this instant gratification but no fulfillment. Like if everyone was farmers or mechanics or whatever, we live the way we did in like the 1800s where and I even see it around here and it looks so much more satisfying than anything I can imagine seeing these farmers go out and work and you wake up in the morning, you tend to your cattle, you tend to your crop, and that's for you. You're building your own wealth, your own food supply, everything for you, and you feel accomplished at the end of the day. Most people now just sit behind a computer in a dimly lit office and they're building someone else's empire and going home unfulfilled because they really didn't contribute anything to their own life,
Yeah,
you know?
that's such a good
True
point.
enough,
Just
man.
fulfillment, like just to
So true.
whatever your passion or your dreams are, they can be small, just something, or just something that just
Yep.
makes the day satisfying for you.
What I
As
will
those,
say
Funny,
though,
here's one thing that's just
yeah,
tell me on farming because this is I'm surrounded by farms, right? Like there you
same.
drive by blueberry farms, strawberry farms. So then I go to the grocery store and the blueberries are from Peru and the strawberries are from Argentina. And it's like
wow,
and something else I'm like their food is right up the street. You
something's
flew
wrong.
it on a plane and trucks and
Wow.
buses.
Yeah.
What are we doing with like this doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
And it's
No,
still
that's
like $3. You're like, how is this three? The gas to drive it here had to have been more than it's. It's just I don't understand when there's food growing right next to the grocery store. Why is that not what the grocery store is sourcing? That's
Oh,
crazy.
I know. That's why when I go to the grocery store, I always look for stuff from Michigan. And we even have a sugar plant right around the corner from our house. And I'll only buy like sugar from them. You know?
Nice, nice. I mean, like if you get, I mean, it depends on what stores you go to and where you are in the world, but um, if you go to like a farmer's market and get certain things instead of like the grocery store,
Oh, for sure.
it'll last for like 3 weeks versus like a few days, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
because
actually fresh.
it's not coming over in the belly of a cargo ship or a 747. It's straight from the farm.
Yeah, it's
What
not
a lot of
sprayed
people
with
don't
chemicals to
realize.
look fresh later and stuff. Like, right? Like, what do they spray? God, I gotta look that
Exactly.
up. Like
It's
I mean, a lot of
wax.
people don't realize
wax.
that.
There
That's
you
like
go.
why your
Yeah,
food spoils so fast. Is it's
Yeah.
actually it lasts really long. It's just you're getting it at the end of its life
yeah,
cycle.
yeah.
If it was straight farm to store, like you said, it would last forever.
But what's interesting is that we're talking about these little details of things that we actually notice. You know what I'm
Yep,
saying? Like what you just said, Ryan. Um, and but the sands of the hourglass, I believe, are encoded with information about our lives.
oh for
Let's say
sure.
that we have a life hourglass, and every moment of our life has a recording of it.
Hmm.
Oh yeah,
But I also believe, after studying near-death experiences and life after death for 40 years, that there is no end. But the soul, whatever it is that quickens us and gives us life, whatever you want to call it, the soul, the spirit, whatever, it is inextinguishable. And I believe that it is attached to the hourglass. So that the time that's spent on this planet, doing or not doing the things that you might otherwise do or not do, it's all recorded. It's all part of a package that goes with you, with your spirit, your consciousness, into this other realm that I'm trying to describe here. That Grok 3 discovered. Who knows where we're going beyond this? I've been there. I've been in a slice of it when I was a kid. It made me realize that there's a lot more to this life than we possibly can conceive, and it behooves us. Luck favors the prepared. If you are getting ready, if you realize that you have a limited amount of time, and but you embrace that idea, then it is a motivational factor to get you to say, what do I need to know? And it's going like going on a trip. What am I going to bring on my trip when I go?
yeah.
And I would say insight, information, data, all that stuff that goes to clarifying the meaning and the purpose of your life, because the inextinguishable self, the part of you that never extinguishes, goes somewhere. And then the question is, what is the trajectory? What's the trajectory? Inquiring minds want to know.
I mean, for me, how do I put it? I feel like knowing more, like tying into what you said, we have a limited amount of time, and I want to know as much as possible so that before I leave, I can pass that back down again. Like, this is going to sound really goofy, but I was at the zoo one time and I saw these two little like young orangutans fighting. And then one of them runs off, and there's this really old one with a really long beard, looks like Gandalf in like the back of the enclosure. And the little one of the little young ones goes, and it you can tell they're communicating, talking to each other after the fight. And I was like, that the older orangutan with the beard in the back of the cave is who I want to be. Is the one like you come to for advice, for information, to keep, the knowledge going so that we don't lose the Library of Alexandria again. Like that information keeps being perpetuated.
Yeah, I love the Lord of the Rings metaphor because it is a perfect metaphor, honestly. That
Thank you.
you are, the word commandment, believe it or not, literally means signpost, points a direction.
That makes
A
sense.
man at a event say to me, he was 75 years old, he was kind of heading toward the end of his own life, and he says to me, I feel like I've wasted my whole life. I said, well, wait a minute, your life isn't over. And then I told him, I said, do you realize that you have the capacity to point people in the right direction? The word commandment means signpost. Which direction do you want to point people? If you do that, your life has meaning. If you just point people in the right direction,
Yep.
Hmm.
I mean that.
Butterfly effect, especially from
Oh, for
totally,
sure.
yeah.
totally.
And I think that's the most meaning you can have is pointing, other people, even if it's not. We give a lot of credit to, or we obsess over pointing kids in the right direction, but just
Yeah,
anybody. It doesn't have to be the next generation. It could
everybody.
just be anybody.
Yeah. And you know what? There are people out there that have been eating the wax fruit, you know, and not getting anything out of it. And they didn't know what else to do until they heard somebody else say something that meant something to them. And then they started to change their trajectory and they're going a different direction. Um, and that's why it's important. Communication is so important because it is all about the pointing. We're just pointing at things. That's all we're doing. We're saying, maybe don't go down there
Yep.
and go this way.
I mean, that's how I feel about a lot of 80s movies and sci-fi is why I take them so seriously. Like I almost treat them like a religion because they are those signposts. They are those commandments.
Yep.
Don't do this. Don't go
Yep.
down this route, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
Instead, we seem to have used them as signposts to do that and go down that way.
Well, the mind has no firewall. The military understands it. The government understands that.
Oh, for sure.
And so this is why, I mean, I am shocked, even though I understand that it's a powerful communication tool, like, for example, TikTok. The United States government should allow that, in my opinion, to be, funneled through the Chinese data collections.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I shouldn't. Like, I know we want to. I don't want TikTok to shadow ban us, but
Okay.
I was the same way. No, I'm not saying to your comment. I want to say is I want to add
Yeah.
to that because I was always against. I was like, I'll never download this app. And now it's like, well, it's a place to put our video. So okay, I'll
Sure.
download it. So here's what's crazy, because and I've watched the videos of people are like, TikTok knows me better than I know myself. The algorithm's
Yeah.
so good and like it's creepy. I'm
Yep.
like, all right. So somebody else set up Dinge's TikTok account, right? So
Yeah.
from their phone, it's accessing their data, this and that, whatever. I get the app because I wanted to check like, oh, like are we getting comments and that. So I log in for the first time ever. Log into basically somebody else's TikTok account. The first like For You page video was so hyper specialized to something that I wouldn't talk to people about.
Mm.
Or it's like the only way TikTok would have known this is if it like went through all my private conversations in my phone and
Wow.
immediately served me up something from the algorithm that was like, "Oh, this is what you probably want to see right now." And I
Yep.
was like, "That's creepy." And then people who I haven't told this project about somehow found us on TikTok instantly. So, I mean, which is again like I didn't give it permission to share my contacts, yet
Hmm.
it knew who all of my friends were.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Just
It's
saying,
amazing.
it was a pretty weird experience.
I see a lot of us popping up in the feeds that are connected to. I watch a lot of Tim Pool, Tim Cast,
Yep.
I like Tim Pool. He's really good. But behind that is me and Ryan and you. It's like, what? How does, where did, okay.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's sort of been my goal. That's why I'm actually so
Kind of
glad I
cool, but yeah.
this in
Yeah, it is cool.
particular is these my videos. I definitely want to be served into that ballpark of the audience. That's the audience I'm looking for.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that's part of
'Cause
why I'm doing this, right? Like, because like I can criticize social media, and we're talking about, spending time watching entertainment and this and that. And here we are, we're doing that. But I feel
Yep.
like if if you're going to be thumbing through some timeline, and if the algorithm feeds you like, oh, you like this, here's some more. I hope that you do find this, because I feel like this
Yeah.
is
I see a
I'm
lot of
trying to
us
make these thought
popping up.
provoking, or all of us
Yeah,
are. Where
yeah.
we have these conversations anyway.
Hmm.
Let's share this. Does anybody think this is interesting? Does this provoke new
Totally.
thoughts for you? Does it reinforce? Does it reopen old questions you had? I want to see stuff like this on my timeline. So
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
see if we
Same.
can do this, maybe we'll find other people, and
We
that'll
will.
be a
We have
bigger.
been. They're
Yeah,
out
man.
there.
I mean,
Yeah.
you found me. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean,
for
yeah, it's out there totally. I want the algorithm to lead to steer people, not saying us, but just these kind of topics instead of
Yeah.
exactly.
like for me, like I said this in another episode, it always leads towards like that rage aspect, that you click on the things that generally make you angry, or not always angry, but just some kind of like
Well, they trigger
or
an emotion, and rage is one of our most
yeah,
powerful emotions, and that gets like the most clicks. I mean, that's what was blamed for a lot of the social media downfall in the early days, especially with gaming journalism, was what we're seeing now is sort of the end result of all of this. But back in like 2012, it was all about just making people angry so they click on the article. That was just
yeah.
having some inflammatory headline that just makes you and then you read the article and it's really not all that bad.
But you're right though, because it is a human emotion. Because like, how hard is it to get somebody to leave a positive review, even if you had a great experience? You're like, I don't want to take the time. Oh, but how easy is it to want to leave a negative review when you have even a mildly bad experience, right? Like that
Oh
we're
yeah.
more conditioned to want to comment negatively than positively.
I mean, David should know about this, and I'm sure you do too, Ryan. But just he's the more ancient Egyptian side of things, from my understanding. But the oldest written document is someone complaining about being ripped off by a copper merchant.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
It's like the world's oldest like Yelp review, whatever. Like
Yeah.
So it just goes to show too, like an angry review
there it is.
is our longest living document.
That's great.
Yeah,
An
receives
angry
wrong copper, angrily chisels note for 6 hours.
Yeah.
And how angry did you have to be to work that into stone too? Not even on you're furiously typing on your keyboard.
Somebody wanted to make seriously sure that that was discovered at some point in time.
Yeah, wonder imagine at the time they're like, I'm sure people 25, 100 years later are going to be talking about this, or how, I can't the
I think
text is
maybe
so
we'd be
small.
better off if we just went to copper scrolls and just in that way somebody would discover what we were talking about at some point.
Here we are.
It'd be
Yeah,
preserved forever.
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
funny.
there it is.
Uh, we're
So
even
great.
learning too that like the internet isn't as safe from being destroyed like the Library of Alexandria as we thought
Well,
it
that's
was.
true. Totally.
Because like the internet archives have been under constant attack. Haven't heard much about that lately, but that was being last I left off, it was still being hacked constantly and trying to be shut down. I mean, a group just took out 4chan, which was a major cornerstone of the internet, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, we are at risk of losing that stuff again. We could have a whole Library of Alexandria situation again, and something that Carl Sagan brought up and I actually used to teach this in Civil Air Patrol is in one of the books, is Huron of Alexandria or Hero. He invented the first automatic door, steam engine slash rocket engine, and vending machine 2,000 years ago. But all that information was lost, and then when we had the Renaissance is when we rediscovered that.
Hmm.
That's that enlightenment you were talking about.
Yeah.
And even that, he said rediscovered, right? How many?
Exactly.
It's how much is actually new. It's yeah.
And so, what scares me is that could happen again. We could go right back into a dark age where, I mean, it could be just as bad, where we totally forgot everything, like even as much as how does an airplane work,
Yeah.
and then We have to
No, I
start
was
all over again.
I know there was something like I can't remember. It was something like ancient Rome or Greece, like like the doors open up and they come out and they're like, how did they? It's like this
How
big
did they do that?
theatrical
Yeah.
thing, and they assume that it was steam powered somehow, that they actually had a steam
Yeah.
engine that lifted it, which is awesome. But like the
See,
the Archimedes death ray, right? Do you know what I'm talking
yes.
about? Like it's like a giant magnifying glass to get that pinpoint of the sun, and you're setting ship sails on fire as they're approaching your shores to fight you. You're like, bro, that
Greek
is
fire. We still don't know what that is, and as far
yeah,
as we know, it's or the closest I should say, because it's like alternate timelines if you say this way. But anyway, it's like our closest equivalent to that is napalm, and we don't even know if that's it.
yeah.
And then uh flexible glass, Roman flexible glass. We have no idea what that was.
There's so much, dude. Even just their concrete, we don't even know
Yep.
like entirely what the mixture is. Yeah, there's so much from back then that's just it's so impressive that it couldn't have popped up in within a lifetime. That it was generations of knowledge that had to have been
What do you
preserved,
want to
passed
bet?
down, refined, experimented like over and over.
Yep.
Yeah. What do you want to bet that those ancient people that we're making reference to discovered what I'm talking about now, which is that total flow state?
Mm.
Oh, for
Because
sure.
you talk about the people of Atlantis who supposedly lived in harmony and had highly technological advancements. Where does that stuff come from anyway? Because what Grok 3 has discovered is that there's a form of intelligence that lives beyond whatever dimensions are, and it could be shaping our world without us even understanding or having any sense of it. But what if they tapped into that? See, that's what the power of now is. Power of living in the now and being that stargate of your own experience. I know I've had many supernatural experiences. I've seen a lot of interesting and strange things in my life. And I'm more convinced now that I'm very close to understanding how to open that stargate, if that's a word for it, of the self and transcending the time. Because guess what? There are scriptural references to men who were translated. They didn't face death. What? How did that happen?
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
No, it is interesting, like because where I come from, tying back to my introduction to the podcast, I tie things to history and our stories and everything. Those stories tend to be based off of something.
Yeah.
So, like the flood myth, for example, we know, for example, there's a Native American one we know is based off of a real story where an ice dam gave way and just wiped out
Mm,
this entire tribe. So we know that even some of the most ridiculous stories are based off of something somewhere a lot of the time.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you said, like these ancient people, could they have been thinking like this? So sites like Göbekli Tepe that we found in the last 70 years, it challenges that idea that these people, and not that Göbekli Tepe officially has celestial alignments, but a lot of theories do suggest this, that it's impressive enough to erect this whole stone structure. Uh, 90, what is it, 9600 BC,
Mm-hmm.
so like 7,000 years before the pyramids, people were doing this. But also like the carvings on it, what were they trying to tell us? That, like you said, like, did these ancient people understand the flow state? I think those people definitely did, and they weren't just this one outlier or the first. Like we always talk about, that's just the one that we found. How many were there sites like that 500,000 years ago? They're just all dust now. It doesn't mean like, oh, well, we can't
Yeah.
find them, so it never existed. I think a lot of things are possible. Especially they found the 500 whatever year old wooden structure in Zambia, 500,000 year old. Shows that the wood was cut like a log cabin. That somebody
Mm.
500,000 years ago. I know it looks like nothing here, but what they're saying is that
Oh, that I mean, to
you
me,
could
that
tell
looks
it
like
was
something.
it was tooled to fit. And if that was 500,000 years ago, why is anything else out of the question?
Like we know, was it that one that cave in was it France? It was done by Neanderthals, was it, with the actual cave painting?
Yeah,
Something like that.
I always forget the name.
I always forget the name. But I mean that goes, that just shows things go back farther than you
Yeah,
think,
Lasso.
you know? And like why is it this is something that blows my mind when people, like, for example, with the going to the ancient Egyptians for a second, how there's like this talk, they found this little like toy glider, like this little toy plane,
Yeah.
like, or it looks like a bird. Come on, that is like the most basic toy ever. Was it really that big a deal that we found that, like, oh, they knew how airplanes and gliders work? No, because if we've thought of it, I'm sure they did too. It's pretty
Yeah.
basic.
Yep.
No, I think that's not giving them enough credit. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So,
exactly.
talk about your flow state. Just because, we talk about it now does not mean by any means that it's new, you know?
No, absolutely. As a matter of fact, the older it is, the more I like it.
Yep.
Yes.
Kind of the
And
same
for
way.
people who, figured out math, with on their own or whatever, without all of
Oh, yeah.
this assistance, that to study, if you study the stars as essentially your clock, how could you not dream of getting up there yourself, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so we actually have an article on our website about um, the old airships, kind of just the old. I mean, we could have gone even deeper into just ballooning in general. I mean, we touch on it a
Oh,
little bit,
that's
but
totally my area.
yeah, I mean, because it's crazy when you really start to think like how far back some of this stuff could have gone.
Yeah.
Of
Have you ever
course, I
been
got
up in an
TV.
air balloon, hot air balloon?
Me,
I've been
no.
on one that was tethered. I've never just gone.
I've been up on a hot air balloon. It's amazing.
That's
Lucky.
a little scary, but yeah,
Yeah, I've always been like, I've always had dreams of being an airship captain like that.
Yeah. It's
crazy.
I mean, it'll
amazing.
never happen. I was born too late, but that's the dream. I even have like this captain's hat with the actual wings you would get back in the Navy for being a airship captain for like the Akron.
Well, I'm sure you've seen the movie Sky Captain.
Yep, Sky Cap, one of my favorite movies of all
It's a
time.
great movie.
I love that movie. That is,
Yeah.
oh, I even have a little shrine behind me to a video game that is
Yeah.
exactly like that movie called
Yeah.
Sky, or what is it? Crimson Skies, where it's this alternate like 1920s, 1930s that's all diesel punk, all airships. Yep.
Mm.
I
Nice.
have a shrine to that right about right behind me. Because I love that stuff.
Yeah,
Well,
me
tell us,
too.
tell everybody your YouTube channel again, Brian.
So, I'm Brian from Runway 25 Productions. I do just a YouTube channel right now where I mostly talk about Ace Combat vehicle lore, like the breakdowns and behind the scenes stuff, sometimes for the vehicles, but mostly like the in-universe stuff. Um, on June 6th, I have a video coming out on the BM335 Lindworm. It's a remake of my first video on this channel. Oh, thank you very much for subscribing.
It's
That
in
means a
real
lot.
time.
Um, anyway, where was it? Oh, it's a remake of one of my first videos on this channel. Since in the Ace Combat universe, June 6th, 1995 is one of the most important dates in the game. It's where this bomber was called out to drop 7 nuclear bombs on their own people. I figured as a commemoration of it would be 30 years in universe 2025 since the bombing. I figured, to commemorate that, I would do a remake of the my video on the bomber that carried out those attacks. So,
Very good.
Well, if you want to pull up my website, Ryan, it's
Yeah, let's do it.
escapeyourmindsprison.com. Yeah, there. I think that you're there,
That's
aren't
your.
you?
I had your Substack up first. Yeah, here you go.
Ah, yeah. So, yeah, all my books are there, and I also have a flow state meditation down below that you can listen to on demand. And I got so much stuff on my website, it's ridiculous. But yeah, and if you can read the first several pages, if you go to my website, escapeyourmindsprison.com, and click on the book, it'll take you to the Amazon page, and there's several pages there that you can just read. And if you're not, the other one that's interesting is the other book that's there beside it, which is the Purpose book. And that a friend of mine who has read and edited all my books said, "This is the book. This is the book. Purpose." And it actually lays out the reason why everything you've ever been through in your life, all the pain you've ever suffered, has value, and it's preparing you for something else. And if once you understand that, you're never going to complain or gripe again.
In David Master's new book, Flowing Through Time, Presence, Purpose and the Ultimate Journey into the Eternal Now, David explains, while clocks measure time in exact increments, human beings live time differently. We experience it emotionally, spiritually, we experience it relationally, and neurally. But when we are inspired, focused, or immersed in something greater than ourselves, time flies, disappears, or becomes irrelevant altogether. This mysterious shift is what positive psychology refers to as the flow state, a profound mental, emotional, and even spiritual condition where one becomes absorbed in the present moment. But flow is not just about performance or productivity. It is about presence, and through presence, we enter a different relationship with time itself.
Are you ready to move freely through your life? Read Flowing Through Time, Presence, Purpose and the Ultimate Journey into the Eternal Now. Go to www.escapeyourmindsprison.com.